Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. Welcome to another activity of the RCM. I'm the Secretariat of the RCM. Today, 17th of September at 9:05 in Mexico City or 8:05 in Central America, 10:05 in Washington, D.C., Ottawa and Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, and about 16 hours in Geneva. Before we start, some housekeeping rules. In accordance with the policy of the RCA on the use of information and dissemination in social media, any reproduction or dissemination of this content, in whole or in part, live or recorded by any means, is prohibited because it is the property of the RCM. So any request for reproduction must be processed through the Executive Secretariat of the RCM. Secondly, we have interpretation, so you can choose English or Spanish from below your screen, clicking on the globe button. And finally, please have your microphones muted when not using them or asking for the floor. Today, RCM, with support of ACLAC and IOM, we are going to talk about Global Compact for an orderly, safe, regular migration. In June in Puebla, with the meeting of the consultation meeting, we had the 8th recommendation to thank IOM for their support in the regional consultative processes and to carry out a workshop on the Global Compact with support of ACLAC and IOM, which is today's activity, with the following elements: role of Global Compact to support RCM's work and the support of the network of the UN for the strengthening of RCM. So I would like to give the floor to give the opening remarks to Rocío González Higuera. She is the head of the Migration Policy Unit of the Secretariat of the Interior of Mexico on behalf of the PPT of the RCM. Good morning, you have the floor. Morning, afternoon, evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to have the presence of Antonio Italino, General Director of the IOM and coordinator of the UN Network on Migration. Also, representatives of the member countries of the RCM, the Executive Secretariat, the representatives of civil society and international organizations as well. On behalf of the government of Mexico and the PPT of the RCM, we welcome you to this workshop on the review of the Global Compact on Migration, which is an international instrument derived from a series of consultations and negotiations among governments. And it's very important to say that it's the first global compact of the UN with an overarching scope, which sets a precedent for coordinated and comprehensive migration governance. Although non-binding, it is founded on the values of sovereignty, non-discrimination, protection of human rights, and it also develops and the potential of the benefits of migration and to have actions to reduce the risks and challenges of migrants in countries of origin, transit, and destination. Also, it concludes with another of the main principles of the RCM, which is respect, promotion, and protection and guarantee of human rights, which is a shared responsibility, another of our values. So right now, it is necessary to evaluate the actions that we have as states done to try to accomplish its 23 objectives, and also in 2022 to have the first edition of the forum to examine this compact. So the RCM is the ideal space for this process because gathers and articulates different actors. For example, in April, this PPT had a first rapprochement with ACLAC and IOM during the consultation with processes, platforms, and organizations at the sub-regional, regional, interregional level, where we stated the restructuring of the RCM into specialized working groups, both in long-term and for short-term topics. So we have a comprehensive view of migration in the region. This workshop stems from the dialogue and consultation, and it has two main objectives. The first is to have a general view of what some member countries and the network do regarding migration to give a follow-up to the compact, and also how the conference can help with the exam, the review in 2022 of the Global Compact. This workshop will give us strategies and views in the region to try to accommodate it to the countries in the region, and also have a contribution as a region and generate a product that can be sent to the review forum in 2022. Mexico, for example, has a follow-up mechanism for the objectives of the Global Compact, which is going to be detailed in the next segment. As we said, RCM is a democratic and pluralistic space, so all opinions and voices will be heard, regardless of whether in their countries the Global Compact has been adopted. But we also encourage civil society to participate as well as government organizations to foment discussion. I am sure that with all your contributions, we are going to have great product that can be referenced nationally, regionally, internationally, and to have a roadmap for any modifications that may be needed. And I would like to highlight the role of IOM and of ACLAC for their leadership and initiative to have these cooperation analysis spaces. We all thank the support to the 11 member countries of the RCM and observer organization civil society for actually participating in the activities and initiatives that Mexico has, having as PPT the commitment and participation of our people. I hope we have a great and productive meeting, and thank you. Thank you, Madam Gonzalez, for your remarks. And now we go with Antonio Vitorino, coordinator of the UN Network on Migration and General Director of IOM, who is with us from headquarters. Well, good afternoon. Morning, afternoon to always as General Director of IOM and coordinator of the UN Network on Migration. It's a pleasure for me to be with you today on the Global Compact on Migration and as a backing of the important work carried out by the Regional Conference on Migration and the support that the UN Network on Migration has and can provide to the RCM. And of course, it can be the contribution to the review forum of 2022 in May. The Regional Conference on Migration, it was created in about 1996. It's one of the oldest interstate consultation mechanisms on migrations. Now, being older doesn't mean less modern. So now what we are discussing the topics and challenges of migration. And for this, I would like to congratulate us in this 25th anniversary of the RCM, because in my opinion, it is visionary, innovative process led by member countries, but which has shown throughout history its value as a forum to facilitate exchange, dialogue, protection of human rights of migrants, the progress of migration governance, and the promotion of links between migration and development in a region that has one of the largest migration dynamics and one of the more complex around the world. Realities of migration today is providing a lot of challenges we can face and a lot of opportunities we can leverage. The Global Compact is a political agreement, a key guideline unit to approach migration and its challenges through international cooperation, because without cooperation, there is no progress based on human rights and in total alignment with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and supported by 10 guiding principles. The compact addresses migration in all aspects through a 360-degree vision. The regional consultative processes on migration are central actors in migration governance and have made great contributions to the process of producing and applying the Global Compact. So taking into account that mostly migration, international migration is produced within regions, the UN General Assembly invites sub-regional, regional, and international processes to examine, to review the application of the compact within their respective areas, and to contribute to the review forum with participation of all stakeholders, which would mean states, governments, but also regional organizations. And within this framework, we are working closely with ACLAC and Organization of Civil Society. Uh, in the regional review meeting on the implementation of the Global Compact on migration in Latin America and the Caribbean, which was held last April, member countries reiterated the value of the compact as an essential framework for cooperation on migration and have renewed their commitment for its implementation. So within this context, many highlighted the important role of regional consultative process, such as the RCM. And many RCM member countries at basically at the forefront of development and implementation of the Global Compact. I mean, Mexico has been co-facilitator of the Compact with Canada, El Salvador, Honduras, and Mexico. RCM already has 4 countries that have joined the initiative of precursor countries, which offer member countries an opportunity to share observation, lessons learned, and promising practices that can contribute to the achievement of the Compact's objectives. Regarding national priorities, IOM, together with resident coordinators and other UN agencies
a nivel nacional,
have created national networks in countries such as Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico, and Panama, but also at a regional level. ICLAC and IOM, together with other 15 bodies of the UN, have created a working group for the implementation, review, and follow-up of the Global Compact. Many of our sister agencies have observer roles in the RCM, so I would like to reiterate our sincere thanks to them for their excellent active work and collaboration. The review of the Global Compact, which is going to happen every 4 years, it is the more important part of the review and follow-up process, the main intergovernment platform where member countries will present their progresses made on the objectives of the Global Compact, whether at a local, national, or regional level. Next May, we were going to have then the possibility to have a meeting with other stakeholders and see our achievements and have new opportunities. I would also like to talk about the fiduciary fund or the trust fund for this, which is becoming a more important fund because it's the only comprehensive financing mechanism that is centered on migration. The implementation of the program started with 9 joint programs currently ongoing, of which of them two are in the Americas. These programs are aligned with the Global Compact's guiding principles and cover many thematic areas and are geographically diverse. With these joint programs, we have a body of work that is growing and represents the implementation of Global Compact in the field through a coordinated focus of the whole UN system. But with 32 additional joint programs that are being considered for and 7 for the region, the fund is ready and needs additional contributions. And we would like to see if anybody can contribute so we can achieve our goal of 70 million. As a reflection of global commitment with the Global Compact, the list of current um, donors includes both traditional and non-traditional contributors. I would like to highlight Mexico's contribution with a contribution of 250,000 US dollar. Mexico is given a great example and was designated as donor representative in the Trust Fund Committee for the next 2 years. So we hope other countries in the region also join and support this fund. I would like to end by congratulating for, on this forum for or the review forum for the Global Compact. So I wanted to congratulate you on this activity of preparation, hoping that they're fruitful and give us our resolute support from IOM and the UN system on all your efforts to implement the Global Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Vitorino, General Director of IOM and representative and coordinator of the UN Network on Migration. Thank you for your words. And of course, we also would like to thank everybody at the IOM and our colleagues at ACLAC. So to continue with the agenda, I would like to welcome and give the floor to Jonathan Perkins. He is on the network of migration, and he's going to talk about the work of the UN Network on Migration to support the Global Compact. Mr. Prentice, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and apologies at the outset for speaking in English. I dream of being able to speak in Spanish, but that is still an ambition that I have yet to achieve. So I hope the interpreters can deal with my pace of talking. It really is a great pleasure to be with you today, and I would like to reiterate the congratulations of the Director General and the coordinator of the network for your dynamism in developing ways to engage in the International Migration Review Forum. This type of collaboration and coordination and commitment is really vital, I think, to the long-term health of the Global Compact on migration. Today, I'm going to just spend a few minutes of your time to focus on what the network has done in support of the GCM, and as importantly, what we will do to support you and the efforts of all partners in engaging in the preparations for the International Migration Review Forum, and indeed the forum itself. So what have we done to date? Really, our focus has been on three areas: systems, substance, and approach. On systems, I think we have come a long way in still not 3 years in helping to establish a GCM, a Global Compact ecosystem. Namely, we have developed what I think is truly a network within the UN system. At all levels, the system has come together, not just globally, but regionally and nationally. As the Director General mentioned, we have a growing number of country networks, including 10 in the Latin America and Caribbean region. But it's not just a network of a UN system, it's also a growing network of member states. And I think this meeting is an example of this. Another example I would point to would be the growing member state leadership throughout the GCM process. The Champions Initiative now has 24 member states, including 5 from the Latin America, Caribbean region. But there's also the engagement and leadership of the member states in the regional reviews. And of course, as was just mentioned, your region conducted its regional review earlier this year. And I'd like to conclude my comments in a few minutes by making a few observations about the regional reviews. And the systems also include, of course, the capacity building mechanism that was mandated in the GCM. The Director General referenced the fund, which is one of its components and really a vital component. But there is also the Connection Hub and the Global Knowledge Platform, which we have established through the Migration Network Hub as a one-stop shop for exchanging views, for exchanging lessons and experiences, and for connecting experts and actors in the migration field. And I think in the months ahead, you are going to see this Migration Network Hub really burst into bloom, into life in a very exciting way to support all of us as we get preparations for the International Migration Review Forum underway. Secondly, on substance. Of course, I think the joint programs in the fund are a classic, clear, concrete example of substance in how the Global Compact, if properly resourced, can impact on the ground, supporting governments, supporting stakeholders through the UN system in making a material difference to the lives of migrants and their communities. But we go beyond the joint programs in the Multi-Partner Trust Fund, and we've developed a range of guidance materials that are now being piloted by UN country teams, by stakeholders, by governments to help integrate the GCM into either national planning processes, stakeholder planning processes, or the work of UN country teams in partnerships with governments. It is self-evident, but I will say it anyway, that the Global Compact on Migration is not self-implementing. It requires tools and guidance to integrate this framework into all aspects of our collective endeavors. We've also been facilitating peer-to-peer exchanges, bringing together whole of government initiatives to learn from each other and from stakeholders and UN partners in a number of areas highlighted by the Global Compact. One area in particular where I think there have been very fruitful exchanges have been the peer-to-peer exchanges looking at alternatives to immigration detention, again, in which governments from this region actively participated. But in addition to that issue, alternatives to immigration detention, we've also put out a range of guidance on issues, for example, surrounding access to services in the context of responding to the COVID-19 pandemic, how to ensure legal pathways for migrants in vulnerable situations, and guidance on effective, principled, sustainable reintegration and the returns of migrants that precedes that reintegration. And work is ongoing on a range of additional issues. And I think in the coming weeks and months, you will see a number of materials come out, for example, on bilateral labor migration agreements and how we can engage the debate and discussion on how to address the challenges presented by climate change, not least in the field of mobility. So that's systems and substance. A few words on approach. One area where I am particularly proud of how the network has engaged is we have sought, I think with some success, to embrace not just the whole of government approach that is celebrated in the Global Compact, but also the Global Compact's commitment to a whole of society approach. We have sought to ensure a deliberative style to our work where we discuss issues as they emerge and we try and develop consultative ways to figure out the best way forward. There have been regular briefings to and with member states. As I mentioned earlier, the champions are increasingly showing signs of wanting to take leadership in a number of areas. Their statement to the HLPF, the High Level Political Forum, in July, was a good example of this. And I would point also to the active stakeholder engagement in implementing, at times leading, the implementation of aspects of the network's work plan. And finally, of course, coming back to the fund, its governance body is fully representative. It includes donors, other member states, stakeholders, and members of the UN system. But I'd like to spend a few moments, if I may, in the time remaining to me, to looking ahead. The International Migration Review Forum will increasingly be our focus between now and when we anticipate it will be held in New York in May. And that focus, I think, needs to be a collective rallying point for all supporters of the Global Compact on migration, both as an opportunity for reflection. Where have we been? How have we dealt with the GCM since it has come on board? And also for projection. Where would we like this to go in the next 4 years after the International Migration Review Forum? We need to ask ourselves a very simple question. The answer may be complicated, but the question is simple. When we get to New York in May, and when we come out of the International Migration Review Forum, what do we want to have got out of it? What guidance do we want to have for the next 4 years? How can we be both credible in shaping that guidance and suitably aspirational? A few observations, and these really are my concluding words, and I thank you for your patience. One is there are a significant number of options by which member states and stakeholders can feed into the process of the regional review, of which, of course, meetings such as this form an important part. Firstly, the meeting itself will be preceded by a report of the Secretary General, where he will be giving his reflections on the way forward and on the progress to date. Secondly, there will of course be a plenary meeting in which member states and others will be invited to give their inputs on both of these issues, the challenges in implementing and the challenges in the future. There will be dedicated roundtables in the review forum in which the 23 objectives of the Global Compact will be clustered. And there will be, importantly, a policy debate in the review forum, which will look at the challenges in the GCM implementation, the state of the capacity building mechanism, and importantly, emerging issues. What do we think the emerging issues are that will call on our attention in the coming period? A second observation, if I may, is that we need at every step of the way to keep the guiding principles of the GCM in mind. These are the DNA of the Global Compact, and they remind us of the rule of law, of our international human rights framework, of the importance of being gender sensitive, and of the need to bring in the whole of government approaches. And I would encourage member states to think through how their delegations to the International Migration Review Forum can be reflective of not just their governments, but their societies when we come to New York. And my final point is one on substance. I'd like to conclude with a small focus on migrants. When we discuss big UN meetings, sometimes process can become prioritized over substance. And it was interesting in reviewing the recently concluded regional reviews to note that a number of objectives in the Global Compact on migration received significantly less attention than many of the others. And I would highlight, and this is also the case in the Americas region. And I would highlight 3 in particular. One is that, strangely, given the amount of work and discourse being done in this area, there was relatively little discussion and focus on migration and detention in the context of immigration status. That, of course, is Objective 13. Secondly, there was virtually no discussion on the portability of social security in entitlements. And finally, there was relatively little discussion, I think, given the seriousness of the issue, on that of saving lives and coordinating international efforts on missing migrants, which of course is Objective 8. The GCM is a broad encompassing document that covers a large range and focus of our lives, the lives of migrants and their communities. But I would urge us all, and I will be speaking with other regions as well, that in so focusing on all aspects of the GCM, we might find a way not to ignore the most fundamental one, which involves saving the lives of our fellow humans. And on that slightly sober, but I hope instructive note, I will leave you. And again, thank you very much for your invitation on this occasion.
Gracias a usted, señor Prentice, por su presentación sobre estos
Thank you very much, Mr. Prentice, on the aspects on the compact, the process, and what is coming. In case you have any question, we can have you can write them in the chat for Mr. Prentice. If you have comments, you can save them for our Q&A sections where we would like more interaction. But if you have a question, you can write in the chat. So having Mr. Prentice on the screen, if we have anything, Mexico, Eduardo Rojo. Thank you, Luis Alonso and Mr. Prentice. Thank you for your presentation. And the question is, can you give us or comment on the methodology that the network is using to gather information about the countries regarding the review forum? Because the network, as I understand it, and we have followed their process on their guidelines and the vision they have on the development and implementation of the compact. But I think we still have a lot of work to do regarding aligning what the network is doing at the countries is doing. The network is intensely working with international organizations. However, that alignment with what we are doing as countries, as states, could be strengthened, especially with regards to the review forum. So what methodology do you use at the IM level to gather information on the countries, on where we are going with this compact? Thank you. Thank you, Mexico. And now I'm going to give the floor to Pamela Villalobos with her question, and then Mr. Prentice can answer, and then we will go with the next block. Madam Villalobos, can you give us a bit to an introduction? Thank you, Luis Alonso. I work in ACLAC, Salari. I don't know whether I am out of protocol, just to try to pick Jonathan's brain. And the question would be,
Jonathan, you have been following all the regional processes, and I would just like to ask you to maybe point out or highlight which are the most salient points in the other regions that we could maybe learn from, whether it is in the process itself or in any substantive issues that they have covered that maybe we have not covered so much. Thank you. Muchas gracias, Luis Alonso.
Muchas gracias, señora Villalobos.
Thank you, Madam Villalobos. Jonathan, you have the floor again.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for those questions. It's always nice to have a little bit that is interactive rather than just speaking and then disappearing. In terms of Eduardo raised a point on the methodology and how to, which I think is a very sensible point on how to ensure an alignment between the work of the network and what is going on the ground. Essentially, what we have sought to do, and maybe I wasn't clear, is have this ecosystem, as I'm calling it, of the network that operates at multiple levels. It operates globally, and obviously there its priorities will be one set of issues within the global compact firmament. Regionally, because of course, one point that we didn't discuss, I didn't have an opportunity to discuss, is how I think there has been relatively little discussion, and maybe this is a partial answer to Pamela's question, linking the two. There has been relatively little discussion. There's been great recognition of the need for cooperation in addressing migration challenges. But there's been relatively little discussion, I think, in the regional reviews on how to operationalize that dynamic. So, of course, the regional piece of the puzzle, given that the Global Compact expressly recognizes that most migration takes place within regions, is one area that I think we all need to pay perhaps a little more attention to. And then thirdly is, as you say, Eduardo, the country level. And so what we are trying to do is not, I always quote the Director General, Mr. Vitorino. He said at the very beginning, when he asked me to set the secretary up, that he doesn't want the network to be a headquarters toy. So it is vital that it exists in the UN system at the country level, precisely, I think, to address what I understood your point to be, that there is no way we are going to be able to help understand or discuss national migration priorities or challenges from Geneva or New York. We need to be doing that with our partners on the ground in a range of countries where the UN is operating. So that's essentially how we are trying to ensure that alignment. Not saying it's perfect, I would never say that, but I hope that at least gives you some sense of the logic or the thinking behind the approach. In terms of Pamela's specific question on the lessons, broad lessons we can learn from within and between the regional reviews. Well, I mentioned one, that I think how we can sharpen the edges on the issue of cooperation within regions, but frankly also between regions. One thing I think that is commendable about the Latin America and Caribbean regional review is, as far as I am aware, yours was the only regional review that had a dedicated meeting for regional consultative processes. And I think that is a good model that we would like to export next time around to the other regional reviews. What I think was very positive about all of them was that there was active stakeholder engagement, which I think is really a positive move and one that we need to build on, not just for the International Migration Review Forum, but ahead into the second cycle of follow-up and review of the Global Compact on migration. And then, as I said in my concluding comments of my first, my more formal comments, was, what was interesting was we have done a cursory review of written submissions to the regional reviews. What was interesting was actually how there was a reasonable level of consistency between those objectives that received more attention than others. So the three that I pointed out to you as being relatively under discussed in the Americas region, portability of benefits, alternatives to detention, and saving lives, were also relatively under discussed in the other regions as well. And I think that's something that collectively we might need to reflect on. So those are just some rough and ready reflections, Pamela. I hope it provides some answer.
Muchas gracias, señor Prentice, por la respuesta a las preguntas.
Thank you, Mr. Prentice, for your answer. And if you want, please stay. Now we will continue with dialogue among member countries. So we are going to have small presentations by the countries on their actions regarding the Global Compact. So first, we're going to start with the precursor countries, so they can tell us about their experience. Now we have Mexico, and then we have El Salvador and Honduras, and any other countries that would want to participate, and then we are going to have some participation with the guiding questions that we gave you. So the first part on the presentation, first we were going to go with Mexico, our PPT, and it's going to be Mr. Eduardo Rojo, Director of International Institutional Relations of the Secretariat of the Interior, Department of Registration. Thank you, Luis. It's going to be brief, but we are really concerned and Mexico, and we want to follow up on the objective. So I'm going to share my screen a little bit. It is a very brief presentation. So if you can look at the presentation. And as Rocio or Madam Gonzalez and Mr. Victorino said, Mexico has played an important role in global compact together with Switzerland in 2018 for its adoption at the global level and during its negotiation. And it was in Marrakesh where, can you hear me? Yeah, we can hear you. And sorry, it appears to be frozen. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we have a little glitch. So in Mexico, we did a review, an exercise that in addition to being academic exercise, it was an exercise to see where we were. It was a comprehensive exercise to see how we were achieving the objectives of the compact. So after its adoption, we had a national consultative council on migration policy. We created a follow-up mechanisms for the compact, and we created a implementation table, if you will. We also invited the civil society and international organizations to accompany us in this process. And we have been able to do it sustainably. Before the compact was adopted, we did a review exercise on the compact, and we did a recount on the implementation and achievement of the objectives that we are going to be in the final version of the compact. So we generated another edition of a report for 2018-2019 with two exercises, a general compendium of information on different actions and programs dealing with the 23 objectives, which is a comprehensive exercise that we summarize in executive report for the bodies of the general or federal government, so they could use it in their activities. We had 3 previous editions of this exercise, and then so we have 2018, 2019, and 2019-2020. And we do this from June to June, so we can give the executive report to the UN meeting on this topic. This year, we are ready, and this is what Madam Gonzalez was saying. We have the 2020-2021 exercise. It is just out of the oven, as we say, and has been published in our website. And I want to talk briefly about this. This is a general compendium with all programs, actions, and best practices for the 23 objectives. And based on this compendium, we generate an executive report with the list of the most representative actions for the objectives. We consult about 45 instances, institution, autonomous bodies, etc., and about 35 responded. We have to recognize it was a smaller response. Possibly we have a lot of people working from home and communication has not been as fluid. And this has been a lot of information, and this is the government of Mexico has contributed with more than 170 programs and actions aimed at the 23 objectives. This is a graph indicating how the actions have been distributed throughout the 23 objectives, and the findings are focused on objective 7, 15, 16, and we have deficits for 19 to 22. And we have seen that this each year, and we're trying to get the authorities to help us or that are involved in these objectives. We have objectives with more actions that are dealt with more intensely. We have 27 actions for objective 7 to reduce vulnerability. We have several actions for providing migrants with access to basic services. Also, objective 1 has several actions on accurate data for policy making. But on the other hand, you can see would be objective 19 to facilitate contribution of migrants to sustainable development, which has 0 actions, or portability of social security. And this has been a constant for these 3 years in terms of we have had no progress made regarding them. So that allows us to identify our strengths and weaknesses regarding follow-up. What challenges do we have when you are sharing information? We ask you about what the challenges have been. Well, we see first financing, human material resources, the use of information, to institutional coordination, training and professionalization at the institutional level, and collaboration at the local level. These are the words stated by those who provide the information. These are not from the analysis. These are the answers provided regarding the 23 objectives. And all this leads us to the conclusions. And these are the objectives on basic objectives. We are generating good information, but it's one of our strengths in Mexico. And we also are doing very well regarding return, safety, security, and sustainable reintegration of migrant population. At least we have a lot of programs and actions on these aspects. On the other hand, from objectives 19 and 22, we need to involve the migrant population more to identify how this population segment support sustainable development and be able to achieve this objective regarding social security and generate synergies with other actions to recognize the abilities of others and to have the challenges reported by other agencies. So that would be the all. Here is the link, but I want to tell you is that methodology, besides being scientific, it's an example of best practice and a comprehensive exercise of how we follow up on the 23 objectives of the compact and to strengthen our assistance or our efforts and where we are providing better follow-up. And we, because we're looking at other experiences, even though we have this narrative, if we don't know what we are doing at the level of the countries, it's also going to be difficult to know what we're doing as a region. And that would be all. Thank you. Thank you, Mexico. Thank you, Eduardo, for the presentation. We already have the links to the compendium and to the executive report. We hope that this presentation will also provide contributions and inputs. And now I'm going to give the floor to Honduras, Lourdes Pastrana Maradiagas from the Secretariat of Foreign Affairs of Honduras, who can tell us about their experience. Honduras, you have the floor. Morning, all. It is a pleasure. We would like to greet everybody. I can say that we have had, in terms of migration, it is not an easy task. We have more and more people moving for different reasons, but migration is a right. We need to ensure that they can migrate regularly. Since 2014, Honduras started in a formulation of policies, frameworks, the regulatory framework, especially for the protection of migrants and a population with in vulnerable situations, asylum seekers, and of course, refugees. Our national actions have basically been in tune with this commitment with the Global Compact. And regarding this regulatory framework, we've had internal policies and regulations and different actions for comprehensive migration management within the Global Compact. In other words, everything we're doing from the government is aligned with the compact. For example, protection, we are with DINAF, with the direction of childhood and family. So we have created this body called SIDENA to provide the best interest of the child. And this system is integrated by different stakeholders working in coordination. Together with the Secretariat of Human Rights, and since 2019, we have a pilot project for people who need protection and forced displacement. It was approved and now in second stage. Regarding the National Institute migration. And we have people in transit, refugees, asylum seekers, irregular migrants. And to all of them, we give humanitarian assistance, legal counsel, and protection of human rights. And also through the Secretariat of Foreign Affairs, we also provide assistance to returned migrants to try to achieve social and entrepreneurial reintegration into our society. Right now, we have 15 municipal units at the national level. And within ACLAC, we developed a plan with social, economic, environmental, and sustainability, and taking into account migration. What have we done regarding the compact? We have many actions for 2019 2020 that we have a questionnaire sent on the application of the Global Compact, which is available in the UN page. And this details our actions regarding migration. We can mention that since April, in a meeting we had, we were able to carry out these actions, also taking into account observations made by civil society. The review process allowed us to identify best practices and shortcomings in other thematic areas. Also, we were able to re-elaborate with different institutions what they have these questionnaires where different institutions were able to mention or present on what they were doing and how they complement for the achievement of the 23 objectives. And it is important to mention the international cooperation provides an essential tool and is a strategic ally. And in all our strategic plans, operational plans, we are always considering actions we have and contributing to the Global Compact on Migration. Thank you. And sorry for the background noise. I know that you're in the office, and thank you for Honduras experience. And to highlight what you said and the dialogue and the cooperation on the experience of other countries. Mrs. Verde from El Salvador Ministry. Julissa, you have the floor. Just want to confirm if you can hear me. Well, thank you. Morning to all. It is a pleasure to represent El Salvador in this dialogue of exchange of best practices and experiences regarding Global Compact. Our thanks to PPT from Mexico for organizing this activity and being able to keep tabs on each other, even virtually, and of course, follow up on the topics that are of interest for us in the region. In El Salvador, with the adoption of the compact in 2018, we had a challenge, especially those challenges, countries like El Salvador, which are countries of everything, origin, transit, destination, and return. So we committed to the compact, being one of the precursor countries. And in 2019, we gave a roadmap for the adoption and implementation of the Global Compact. And this is led by the Minister of Foreign Affairs with all institutional articulation that we have at the country level, represented at a council for the protection and development of migrants and their families. And given the implementation of the compact and its application given the country's realities, we have prioritized 8 objectives. It doesn't mean we are not following up on the other objectives, but in public policies, you have to prioritize. And we are going to prioritize 8. 1, gathering accurate data for public policy making. 2, minimize adverse and structural factors that forced people to emigrate. 7, reduce vulnerabilities. 14, improve protection, assistance, and protection at the consular level. 19, create necessary conditions for migrants and diasporas to contribute to development. 20, transparency for remittances. 21, collaborate to facilitate return and readmission in decent conditions. And 23, facilitate international cooperation. Also in November last year, as our colleague from Honduras said, El Salvador sent its voluntary questionnaire for the regional review of Latin America and the Caribbean. We did this through a consultation process led by the Council of Development and Protection for Migrants and their Families. Last year, we also had a pause, and with Alexandra Hill, our Minister of Foreign Affairs, we established a unit that will comprehensively address migration. This internal review process indicated that there were several topics that were outside of a specialized approach. So we have a vice ministry for Salvadorians abroad. So it only identified a population group for specialized follow-up. So in May of this year, we have the Vice Ministry of Diaspora and Human Mobility, which I represent, with units that address the different stages of the migration process in alignment with the objectives of the compact. The new units that were created and that we are right now re-engineering, given the specialized approach for the government, we have direction of human mobility and assistance to migrants to protect human rights of migrants and their families in all stages of migration cycle. Because we're talking about all stages, because we have created units and departments that can focus on particular stages, not the whole cycle. For example, we have a program for the prevention of irregular migration. It's a big challenge, but we cannot do anything less, to be honest, and we have to try to prevent this type of migration, and we're articulating so we can address the structural changes of irregular migration. We also have assistance department for protection and human rights of migrants that are in transit and destination, and inclusion for migrants, a department that retake the previous return and reintegration topics and adds a component, which is also rather ambitious, to provide assistance to foreign migrants in El Salvador. That we're talking about including migrants, returnees, Salvadoran nationals, and also foreign migrants, for example, refugee or asylum seekers. Another ambitious one is diaspora and development. First, It is very interesting, and we're talking about the development and contributions of migrants in the countries of destination. And we are trying to develop the participation of our nationals in investments and businesses of Salvadorians abroad. Also recognizing the development or a topic of labor migration. And we're also having steps to create this institution and provide this links, for example, to leverage opportunities for temporary work abroad and promote Salvadorian labor. And my unit, Analysis and Alliances for Human Mobility, it's an office. It's for generation of information by governments on mobility. This unit or directorate that we are finalizing, we are going to manage studies data for the best design implementation of policies. And we have somebody else not closing their mic. So this is what we are doing. It is important to review our institutionality, to have integrated approach and effectively respond to objectives of the compact. And of course, we're here to be intervention and best practices of other countries. Thank you. Thank you, Julissa, for your intervention and recognizing the challenge of a new institutional structure and the commitment that you have vis-a-vis the Global Compact. Once again, we would like to thank El Salvador, Mexico, and Honduras for their contributions. So if any of member countries of anyone from the civil society wants to have or to open microphones or regarding the compact. So basically the floor is yours. So please ask for the floor if you have any comments. Any comments for the presentations of Mexico, Honduras, El Salvador, or if a country would like to share their experience. Costa Rica. I'm not going to use a camera. I don't have a camera in this machine. I want to thank everybody for the experiences that we can share. And we in Costa Rica, I would say we are also looking towards getting best practices. I just want to talk about our experience. And all countries that signed the compact, we were working on that. So the compact is basically giving a bit of order to what we're doing as country. Costa Rica, we have an advantage that we had already done some things created like an comprehensive migration policy and how it would be instrumentalized. And for example, the inclusion of civil society in Migration Council And in 2018, or since 2018, to give an answer for dynamics, especially as a receiving or country destination and transit. And this migration aspect is centralized in one unit, and we execute the policy, and these instruments that I have mentioned of planning, such as policies, this is to strengthen interinstitutional cooperation. We are operators. We have to work together with others. So we have to coordinate with other institutions, but we would be the ones that would be leading the effort. What have we done? We provide the reports, coordinate, and having these instruments and being articulating with other institutions allows us to know how the phenomenon is unfolding and how we are responding and achieving the 23 objectives. We have 4 pillars: governance, human development, protection and assistance, and migration and security. We had a cross-cutting aspect. In other words, that these 4 pillars and sustainable development would be cross-cutting pillars for the 23 objectives. So everything is done has to be guided by the compact. And this allows us, so our officers know more about the compact, because everything has to respond to the compact. And as our colleagues said, well, how much have we advanced? Well, and what more can we do? I think that the compact does not have an expiration date, and we have discussed this before. And remember the last activity that we had with South America. These flows will continue. It is more and more difficult. And so the compact is constant construction. And to try to strengthen regulations or regulatory framework and in the dynamics, international cooperation is essential because we have a shared responsibility. And not only countries of transit or destination have this obligation, but everybody. This is what I wanted to comment. Costa Rica already had instrumentalized this. Now we are strengthening this and getting prepared regarding what we can develop in our new migration policy that we have to start building and implementing starting in 2023, as well as their accompanying plans. But of course, considering the global compact. Thank you. Thank you, Costa Rica, Eugenia, for this reflection. So we go for the next segment, which we continue with a discussion. You have an experience or comments, and we are going to have some guiding questions, which are in the chat. The first one would be, how can the Global Compact for Migration support the work of the RCM? Second one, because we have heard 3 countries, but we would like to hear more about how the compact can help the RCM's work. And not only member countries, but other organizations, IOM, ACLAC, and others are welcome to make their comments, as well as the civil society. That is the first question in the chat. How can the Global Compact support the work of the RCM? And remember, the RCM's work is represented in all member countries. We have pro-tempore presidency that will conduct all actions. So we have to think in broad terms how the compact supports the work of the RCM. You can open your microphones or your cameras if you want, or use the chat. Honduras. A long time ago, RCM, before the compact, and with the different working groups, has been able to articulate and strengthen actions between countries and regions. And this is something that we have been able to do with this team. And we were able to bring some experiences from South America to strengthen the initiatives and best practices and communications, which is very important for the region. And as you said, with dialogue with South America, we are going to put it in the chat. We are going to give the link to the virtual folder of the meeting last week to illustrate what Honduras just said. Anybody else on the first question? And then we have Guatemala, then Costa Rica. Fabiola, Guatemala. Hello. Yeah, it is a pleasure. And also the government of Mexico. In specifically how the Global Compact support the work of the RCM. It is an instrument that is very simple to assimilate and apply. From the 23 objectives the RCM is doing, we can have this work regarding migration. For me, it is basic. And to have actions based on the 23 objectives of Guatemala, we participate in the regional review with IOM and ACLAC. And we have shared how we are using the objectives in our local policies. So RCM's contribution is essential for the countries, including exploring a bit more or beyond the objectives. And because it's our basis. So you are doing a great job. And also thank you for the workshop. And we are going to continue with the review next year. So congrats. Thank you, Fabiola. And greetings. And Costa Rica, and then Nicaragua. Maybe I would like to reiterate, but is, shall we say, self-evident. And so the Global Compact is basically backing RCM's work 100%. And for this, it is essentially the RCM is also helping us to achieve the global compacts or the achievement of the global compact's objective. So it would be more also like RCM supporting the compact. Not only the actions are intertwined, and we go a bit beyond because we don't think only as a region, but also about our migrant populations, refugees, and are articulating in the region to provide effective answers to these migration flows or migration flows in the region. So as our colleague in Guatemala said, taking the 23 objectives and trying to have that a cross-cutting with our pillars, it would be, yes, great, and working with our strategic plans. But another way is how the countries are working with or within the global compact. We know we have some countries that have not signed the global compact. Does not mean that they are not working towards safe and orderly migration. They support these actions. So I think it goes two ways. The compact supports us, but the RCM is also supporting the global compact. And we can go a bit further than the 23 objectives. Thank you. Thank you, Costa Rica. And greetings, Minister of the Interior, Nicaragua. You have the floor. Morning to all. The delegation of Nicaragua greets all the participants in this workshop on the Global Compact. So how can the Global Compact support the work of the RCM? With the approval in Morocco in 2018, RCM countries have committed to comply with the objectives of the Global Compact and especially with the 2030 agenda. For us, the compact, it is a commitment to improve and strengthen our shared responsibility to deal with the phenomenon of migration, because we cannot do this individually, but through an integrated approach to have safe, ordered, and regular migration, and also to strengthen the capabilities of member countries to respect human rights of migrants in countries of origin, transit, destination, and return, and also to contribute to sustainable migration and take into account of best interest of the child, gender perspective, and contribution of migration, and to face challenges and leverage opportunities and consequences with the participation of governments, international governments, and civil society, and to try to reduce regular migration risk and vulnerabilities of migrants. Thank you. Thank you, Nicaragua. If we don't have any other interventions, we are going to go to the next section, but we can continue the dialogue on what we have commenting. Question number 2. We have a lot of colleagues from ACLAC and IOM and other organizations also. Question is, how can the UN network on migration strengthen its support of the RCM? So you have the floor. IOM and ACLAC, of course, you're welcome to contribute. And as usual, you can raise your hands, open mic, camera if you wish. Mexico. Thank you. Trying to relate question 1 and 2. Costa Rica has said it very well. The transformation of Regional Conference on Migration accompanied the adoption of this compact. And these are mechanisms that are linked over time. And the Regional Conference on Migration was expanded because of the diversity of topics in the compact. And we had before a binary agenda where we had just two topics: consumer protection and migrant smuggling and human trafficking. All very relevant topics that remain relevant. And now we have diversified and to have new topics regarding relevance. And we're talking about, for example, border management, labor migration, and others that are now visible in our action plans. And we'll see whether that has served the purposes. And this is in addition to the diversity of topics. Regarding question number 2, and Mexico as the PPT, and we should work together to bring something specific to the review forum. And I really liked the introductions, the first section, and we have a Caribbean mechanism and with review of the compact, and even the RCM has had some scattered meetings regarding this. I think it's an opportunity and a proposal to have structured activity within the conferences, activities to review the global compact. So when we have the biannual or quadriennial reviews, we would be better prepared. So it is very important that IOM and international organizations to be able to work together and try to link what we are doing at the country level, regional level, and go to regional processes, let's say, with more solid contributions. To have a structured review of compact with international agencies. So we take note, and now we are also inviting anybody else who would like to make contributions, and that we can go with question 3. And how can the RCM contribute with the review forum? Maybe Rudy and colleagues can give us some insights on these contributions of the UN network to the discussion. We have civil society, we have CIDEO. Gabriela, you have the floor. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to intervene. I think it has been great preparation and presentation of the different topics. Regarding the topics, I would like to remind everybody the conceptualization of human rights. It has to be more grounded. Everything is positive, the offers, but we were talking about migration and in these countries, we need to have this visible. We have detentions and we have no development without human rights. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Rocom. Gracias, doña Gabriela, por la reflexión.
Thank you, Aroncom. And
Luis Alonso.
sorry, Luis Alonso.
Sí, por favor. OIM,
Yeah,
adelante.
sure. IOM.
Gracias, disculpa.
Sorry about this
No está.
for not raising my hand.
Pero muchísimas gracias por la
But
oportunidad
thank you for the opportunity of interviewing Michelle Klein Solomon, Regional Director of the IOM for Central America, North America, and the Caribbean. Thank you all for your participation today. And for Eduardo, Governor of Mexico, thank you very much for your contribution. I would like to give a bit of an answer of what the network can provide, both at a national and regional level. We have listened our General Director, Antonio Vitorino, and Jonathan Prentice, coordinator of the network. We are discussing about the human mobility aspects at a regional level. So how we can support the regional's efforts. And as first step, next week, we are going to have first discussion with civil society organizations to be able to see how we can support them. So efforts can be coordinated, especially regarding the global review or review forum. And we're also going to plan with you, and we fully support the Eduardo's suggestion to use this forum and other forums at a regional level to provide support to you and the forum at a global level. And we're also going to work at the national level. And we have the same topic at the national level, and we have other efforts. And I am impressed. And we would like to use this as an example at level, at the government level, and how we can have reflections on where they are, achievements, challenges, and what's coming ahead, what Jonathan has shared. But let me tell you, we are with you. You have our full support, especially with our roles as a network coordinator and with our partners. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, Michelle. Gracias, OIM, porque de hecho sabemos que estará
Thank you.
ese acompañamiento presente.
We're going to have that support. Any other questions regarding what we, or any other comments on the questions that we have asked? If we don't have any more participations or reflections, and together with the IOM, who has helped us achieve this, and with the executive secretary, we are going to prepare our report that will serve as contributions for the next steps, especially regarding Mexico's contribution, and also taken into account. So, Mexico, you have the floor. Okay, last time I talked, promise. But I would like to have an agreement regarding this workshop, the timeline between us and the May review. As we said, we should have this in the permanent agenda. We should try to drive together with Salvador the next PPT. So at the end of the first quarter of 2022 to have another workshop, to be able to go to May's review forum with a more robust regional policy, with a better product for the May forum. So maybe we basically align to that. How about having this meeting during the first quarter 2022, so we are better prepared for the review forum? Thank you. Thank you, Mexico Executive Secretary, taking due note, and the current troika with Costa Rica, Mexico, and El Salvador, previous, current, and future PPT are duly taking note. So we have no more comments. I would like to congratulate everybody for a great discussion, and we would continue with our closing remarks. First, we are going to give the floor Salare, of the Division on Population of ACLAC. So, Pablo, you have the floor. So, please give us the closing remarks. Thank you, Luis Alonso. Dear Rocio, head of the unit of Migration Policy and Registration and Identity of Persons, IOM, dear Michelle Solomon, Regional Director of IOM for Central America, North America, and the Caribbean, with whom we have worked closely throughout this whole process of follow-up on the Global Compact in the region. Dear representatives from governments of the Regional Conference on Migration, colleagues from the UN system. Before, I want to give greetings from the Executive Secretary of CEPAL, Alicia Bárcenas, who reiterates their support to the achievement of the objectives of the Global Compact's objectives with the perspective of development, equality, and human rights. We really congratulate you on the work, and from ACLAC, we have accompanied this intergovernmental process. And we have witnessed the work that has been done. I think that it is evident that the purpose of the RCM are perfectly aligned with the objectives of the Global Compact. From our region, as we've seen, we are making important efforts for implementation, and this sub-region has an aspect of cooperation that continues to this day. ACLAC includes the pertinence of multilateral approach to the challenges of migration, which have been exacerbated by the pandemic. We need to think at the national level from a public policy view and social protection, human rights, and equality as pillars to better rebuild our societies once the pandemic is controlled. So ECLAC is calling attention on the fact that Latin America and the Caribbean are facing the worst crisis in a century, with a huge contraction last year and just 5.9% growth, which does not cover the decrease experienced in 2020. We have different conditions to consider, and many of them can be due to structural issues within the region that hamper growth and which will have a negative impact on the recovery of the economic activity. In fact, labor markets in the region were the most affected worldwide. Particularly, we had a strong decrease in the participation of women in the labor force, which is a drawback, and we have gone back 20 years in that regard. So it is undoubtedly that given the productive basis of Latin America, we have been quite affected. For example, remittances in Latin America is still really something to consider and has to be considered together with the compact and the 2030 agenda. ACLAC at a global, regional, and local level considers that migration is a right. And migration has to be integrated in development plans, emphasizing peace, development, regional integration, multilateralism, international cooperation, and the respect of sovereignty of states, and which aims at improving the quality of life of the population, especially in the countries of origin. As documented, migrants are one of the population groups that are most exposed to infection and the pandemic. Also face serious difficulties, including the return to their countries of origin, and a part of a paradox, mainly for women. Some occupations like domestic work and care economy are among the worst that have lost most employment. And also their first line in cleaning, healthcare, etc. So women are going to be essential for reactivation. So we need to address this unprotected work structure. And it's a huge opportunity for reactivation. So we need to think about working on a development model that is different, that is inclusive, with equality in accordance with SDGs and Agenda 2030. Migration has always represented and continues to be an opportunity for countries, communities, and people. We need to discuss right now on the probable scenarios and also talking about informed conditions, trying to achieve sustainable development and equality, and within the framework of implementation of the Global Compact on Migration. I would like also to reiterate our commitment to collaborate with the RCM in the implementation of the compact, and wishing you the best of success in the development of your activity. And I hope that this encounter has helped us reinforce our conviction that the human rights of migrants are always at the center of our actions. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Saad, Director of ECLAC, which is with us together with IOM. So we give the floor back to Michelle Klein Solomon, Regional Director of IOM for Central America, North America, and the Caribbean. Thank you, Luis Alonso. Thank you all, and thank you to the Mexican PTPT, Luis Alonso, and all our colleagues. We have, we are going to say briefly, we have issues and would like to say hi to my colleague from ACLAC. And we have also been able to work with Paulo with about 20 years. And if you do not know, he is going to retire soon. And I just want to tell you thanks for all cooperation. And I want to send you our best wishes in your future endeavors. And I would like to say that IOM endorses everything that Paul has said. I would just like to share a couple of ideas on the third question. What can the RCM with respect to the Global Compact? Some have been indicated, and we are going to see that, as we have seen, RCM can offer an essential platform on implementation of the Global Compact at the regional level. And as our General Director, most migrations happen at a regional level. You can also share best practices on policies and cooperation. And we have seen with the presentations that there are several examples of this. Also promote innovative practices, multi-partner partnerships, if you, and train their members to evaluate activities that are relevant from the perspective of the Global Compact, the 23 objectives, and 10 guiding principles to establish work groups on the Global Compact on migration, aligning the existing working groups with the objectives of the compact, and also to prepare collective contributions or inputs, which has also been indicated by the government of Mexico, that are of a regional nature for global reviews, and to formulate their positions on their involvement as a regional organization or regional body. And very important advantages that we can leverage. You can promote an approach of regional migration governance to make visible your practices and challenges, and of course, achievements. And finally, to forge mutually beneficial partnerships with other regional entities. These are some of the ideas, and I hope that they can be of use to strengthen and provide input to the working group that was proposed by Mexico. I just want to finish by reiterating our commitment and our thanks to Mexico and all member countries. Thank you very much. And thank you, Rocio, my new friend. Thank you. Michelle, we would also like to stress our best wishes to Paulo on his retirement. And to close the written, we have Rocio Gonzalez, head of the Unit on Migration Policy, Registration, and Identity of Persons. Madam Gonzalez, you have the floor. Thank you for the work by Madam Klein Solomon and Mr. Sar, Director of the Central American Demographics Unit of the ACLAC. I think that we can reflect of what we have achieved so far today and what we have to do. As PPT, we have the commitment of fostering the discussion and continue working so this topic is permanently at the dialogue tables in this conference and other international aspects. I am really glad about this participation and of course other international organizations. And our experiences are reflected in today's exercise and being able to have joint efforts and understanding are in themselves challenges because countries have their own context, approaches, or resources to be able to follow up on the complex objectives. So we do not need to necessarily converge on anything. However, these type of dialogue that can allow us to strengthen our narratives despite our differences. And we are going to keep working on this future agenda, which is perfectible. Self-criticism is also part of it. And we have seen different ways to provide follow-up to the Global Compact. And we know a bit more about the work of the UN network in support of the Global Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration. And as a region, we have specific objectives to continue with the development of this topic, to continue the development and have technical support of ACLAC is essential to get our objectives. And follow-up to Global Compact should be essential for the implementation of clear directives and to have a contribution for the review forum next year. So we reiterate our commitment to continue driving this work and together with the next PPTs. This regional vision of human rights and the dialogue of this conference go beyond borders and become shared regional principles. So I invite all member countries to own these commitments and from their vision, capabilities, and leadership, continue working together with the RCM. These are spaces where we can build new narratives and become part of the process of change, not leaving anyone behind and not leaving anyone outside. Thank you once again, and I would like to close this workshop on the review of the Global Compact. Have a great day, and until we see you next. Thank you so much. Thank you, PBT. So we hereby close this meeting. We will be in contact for other activities of the RC. Thank you very much and good day.